UFC 320 takes place tomorrow night, Saturday, October 4th, 2025, at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, where UFC light heavyweight champion Magomed Ankalaev defends his title against #1 ranked challenger Alex Pereira in their highly anticipated rematch. Ankalaev enters as the betting favorite at -285, while Pereira sits as the underdog at +230, according to current odds. This rematch comes 7 months after their first encounter at UFC 313, where Ankalaev captured the belt with unanimous decision scorecards of 49-46, 48-47, and 48-47 on March 8, 2025. The champion has now won 14 consecutive fights, while Pereira seeks redemption after claiming injuries hampered his first performance. According to MMA Fighting's coverage of UFC 313, Ankalaev fought a tactical, measured bout to dethrone one of the most dangerous strikers in MMA history. Pereira was in control during the first round, but he appeared to fade as the fight progressed, while Ankalaev picked up momentum throughout the championship rounds. The Russian fighter's game plan was clear from the opening bell: survive Pereira's early striking power, pressure him with wrestling threats, and break him down over 5 rounds. The striking statistics from their first meeting reveal Ankalaev's strategic brilliance. While Pereira landed the more spectacular shots early, Ankalaev consistently mixed in takedown attempts that forced the Brazilian to expend energy defending against the cage. By rounds 3 and 4, Pereira's output had noticeably diminished, his kicks lost their snap, and his counter-striking became more reactive than proactive. Pereira entered UFC 313 as ESPN's number 2 ranked pound-for-pound fighter, having previously held the UFC middleweight championship and knocked out opponents with terrifying regularity. His reputation as a knockout artist with Glory Kickboxing championships at both middleweight and light heavyweight made him seem nearly unbeatable in stand-up exchanges. Yet Ankalaev neutralized that threat through intelligent distance management, feints that kept Pereira guessing, and the constant threat of grappling that prevented the Brazilian from fully committing to his power shots. Ankalaev became the 3rd fighter from Dagestan to capture UFC gold, joining Khabib Nurmagomedov and Islam Makhachev in that exclusive club. His path to the championship proved anything but straightforward. His UFC debut ended in a last-second submission loss to Paul Craig in London, a devastating defeat that could have derailed many careers. Instead, Ankalaev rebuilt himself into a complete mixed martial artist, developing both his striking defense and offensive wrestling to complement his already solid technical boxing. Following his UFC 313 loss, Pereira revealed through multiple interviews that he had been dealing with undisclosed injuries during his training camp and the fight itself. According to reports from MMA media outlets covering his post-fight statements, Pereira vowed to make good on his rematch opportunity, claiming he could not perform at his best physical condition in their first encounter. The injury revelation sparked debate within the MMA community. Some fans questioned why Pereira didn't pull out of UFC 313 if injuries were genuinely affecting his preparation. Others pointed to his first-round performance as evidence he was relatively healthy, noting that his fade in later rounds seemed more related to Ankalaev's strategic pressure than physical limitations. Regardless of the validity of his claims, Pereira has spent the past 7 months addressing whatever physical issues he faced and promising a dramatically different performance. Pereira's striking credentials remain his greatest advantage. His Glory Kickboxing background produced 2 world championships and a highlight reel of devastating knockouts. In the UFC, he captured the middleweight title with a left hook knockout of Israel Adesanya, then moved up to light heavyweight where he continued dropping opponents with clinical precision. His left hook to the body has crumpled multiple fighters, and his head kick knockout of Jamahal Hill showcased his diverse offensive arsenal. The challenge for Pereira has always been wrestling defense. Against opponents willing to engage in pure striking battles, he's nearly unbeatable. But when faced with fighters who mix in grappling threats, as Ankalaev demonstrated at UFC 313, his kickboxing background shows its limitations. He lacks the takedown defense instincts that come from years of wrestling training, and his cagecraft when defending against the fence needs refinement. If Pereira's injury claims hold merit, and if he's genuinely at full health for UFC 320, we could see a fighter who maintains his first-round power and precision deeper into the championship rounds. That scenario presents real danger for Ankalaev, whose defensive striking relies on opponents slowing down and becoming more predictable as they tire. Ankalaev's 14-fight winning streak represents one of the most impressive runs in current UFC competition. Since that Paul Craig submission loss in his Octagon debut, he systematically dismantled opponent after opponent with a well-rounded game that leaves little room for error. His striking defense ranks among the best in the light heavyweight division, with head movement and footwork that makes him difficult to hit cleanly. What separates Ankalaev from typical grinded-out wrestlers is his legitimate striking ability. He's not hunting for takedowns out of desperation, or because his stand-up game can't compete. Instead, he uses wrestling as a tool to create uncertainty in his opponent's minds. That mental chess match allows him to land cleaner punches, because fighters facing him can never fully commit to their offense without worrying about ending up against the cage or on their back. Against Pereira at UFC 313, this tactical brilliance was on full display. Ankalaev didn't shoot numerous takedowns. He didn't need to. The threat alone was enough to keep Pereira from planting his feet and loading up on power shots. Every time Pereira tried to set up his devastating left hook or step into kicking range, Ankalaev would level change or feint a shot, forcing Pereira to reset his stance and killing his offensive rhythm. The championship rounds at UFC 313 showed Ankalaev's championship conditioning. While Pereira visibly slowed, Ankalaev maintained his pace, his pressure, and his output. This cardio advantage isn't accidental. It's the product of Dagestani training camps that emphasize relentless pace and non-stop grappling exchanges that forge iron lungs and unbreakable will. Defending his title for the first time presents new challenges. Ankalaev now has a target on his back, and Pereira has had 7 months to study the film, identify defensive holes, and develop a more comprehensive game plan. The pressure of being champion, of needing to prove his first victory wasn't a fluke, could affect Ankalaev's usual calm demeanor. Or it could reinforce his confidence, knowing he's already solved Pereira's striking puzzle once and can do it again. According to Bloody Elbow's predictions coverage, just 2 of their staff members are backing Pereira to regain the light heavyweight title, demonstrating overwhelming consensus that Ankalaev will successfully defend his championship. Ankalaev sits as a 2-to-1 favorite in betting markets, with the minus 285 odds indicating bookmakers believe he has roughly a 74% implied probability of winning. These odds reflect several key factors. First, Ankalaev already beat Pereira convincingly, winning 3 of 5 rounds on all 3 judges' scorecards. Immediate rematches typically favor the winner of the first fight unless there were controversial judging decisions or fluke endings, neither of which applies to UFC 313. Second, Pereira's injury claims, while potentially legitimate, haven't been substantiated with medical documentation or specific details about what was injured. Without concrete evidence, many analysts dismiss them as standard post-loss excuses. Third, and perhaps most importantly, nothing in Pereira's training videos or public statements suggests he's developed the takedown defense or cage wrestling that would neutralize Ankalaev's primary tactical advantage. Improving wrestling defense takes years of dedicated training, not 7 months. While Pereira can certainly improve his awareness and reactions, fundamentally changing his grappling game in this time frame seems unlikely. The plus 230 odds on Pereira, however, do reflect his puncher's chance. At any moment in any round, Pereira can land a fight-ending shot. His left hook has put opponents to sleep who never saw it coming. His high kicks have turned off lights in devastating fashion. Against a technical, defensive fighter like Ankalaev, one mistake in distance management or one poorly timed feint could create the opening Pereira needs to change the fight instantly. For bettors and fans evaluating this rematch, the question isn't whether Pereira can win. Of course he can. The question is whether 7 months has provided enough time for him to solve the stylistic puzzle that Ankalaev presented at UFC 313. The betting markets and expert consensus suggest it hasn't. UFC bantamweight champion Merab Dvalishvili defends his title against number 4 ranked challenger Corey Sandhagen in the co-main event, providing another championship bout on an already stacked card. Dvalishvili's relentless pace and cardio have made him a nightmare matchup for the entire bantamweight division since he captured the belt. The main card, which begins at 10 p.m. ET/7 p.m. PT on the ESPN app, also features Jiri Prochazka versus Khalil Rountree Jr. in a light heavyweight bout with title implications. Prochazka, the former champion who lost his title to Pereira before Pereira moved up to light heavyweight, looks to position himself for another championship opportunity. Rountree has emerged as a dangerous striker with knockout power and improved wrestling defense that makes him competitive against elite competition. Preliminary fights start at 8 p.m. ET/5 p.m. PT on ESPN EWS, ESPN Deportes, ESPN Plus, and Disney Plus, giving fans over 4 hours of action leading into the championship bouts. UFC 320 represents one of the promotion's strongest cards in recent memory, with multiple fights that could produce title eliminator implications and performance bonus candidates. The event's positioning in Las Vegas at T-Mobile Arena adds to its significance. This venue has hosted some of the UFC's biggest events and most memorable moments. The crowd atmosphere in Vegas, particularly for championship fights featuring elite strikers like Pereira, creates an electric environment that can influence fight momentum and intensity. UFC 320 tomorrow night delivers one of the year's most intriguing rematches, with Magomed Ankalaev looking to prove his UFC 313 victory over Alex Pereira was no fluke, while Pereira seeks redemption and the light heavyweight title he lost 7 months ago. The betting odds and expert predictions overwhelmingly favor Ankalaev, but Pereira's knockout power means this fight remains dangerous for the champion every second it stays standing. Whether Ankalaev's wrestling threats and tactical patience again neutralize Pereira's striking, or whether a fully healthy Pereira can unleash the devastating power that made him a two-division champion, will be answered tomorrow night in Las Vegas. With Merab Dvalishvili defending his bantamweight title on the same card and Jiri Prochazka fighting in a title eliminator, UFC 320 stands as one of the promotion's most significant events of 2025.